Brandy? Here. Mark?
Here.
Jay?
Here.
Nancy?
Yes.
Jeff?
Here.
Eric?
Here.
Kurt?
And Kurt is excused. Still Captain Fisher. It is now time for the roll call. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next item on the agenda, item 3, is approval of minutes. We have need approval for June 8th, 18th, July 2nd Assembly meeting minutes. I'd entertain a motion to do so. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Member Stanton Greger, seconded by Member Morrell to approve the meeting minutes. If there's no changes, clerk call the roll.
Jeff?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Brandy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have approved the minutes for those 3 meetings. Next thing on the agenda today is amendment and approval of the meeting agenda for today. I entertain a motion to approve the agenda or
Mr. Mayor?
any amendments. Member Mucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been asked if it was okay to show this video that was sent to us from the outfit that is putting the, I don't know if it's a reality show or the show about Petersburg and police departments around the state, Kodiak and Fairbanks. And it's about a 6-minute video, and I was wondering if we could find a place on the agenda to show that here shortly.
We could add it under views unrelated items on the agenda, or if we put it on the agenda, it could be related.
Sure, either way.
Sooner than under discussion, yeah.
Sure, either way.
So, now, is there any other amendments, or is that the only amendment that needs to be made?
That's the only one I had.
Okay, so, all those in favor of adding that to the agenda, say aye. Aye. Okay, we'll add that under visitors' views related to the agenda. Okay, I'd roll call vote to approve the agenda as amended, please.
Eric?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Brandy?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes. Okay, we'll move forward with the amended agenda. Now time for public hearings, but there are none listed, so we'll move to bid awards. There is one bid award today, and Director Conn recommends the award of the 2018 sand bid to Rock and Road Construction for an amount not to exceed $73,990. I'd entertain a motion to approve that award.
So moved. Second.
Okay, motion been made by Member Morrell, seconded by Member Mucci. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did talk to Chris this morning, and I just had a question, and he answered it, but it might be interesting for everybody to hear it. I was curious in the memorandum what additive alternate was, and it might be helpful, again, for me to hear it, just to kind of...
Do you explain that, Mr. Cotter, please?
Sure. The additive alternate is something we use during bid processes when, we'd like to have a certain amount of material, say, in this case, 2,000 tons of material. We weren't sure if we'd be able to afford it all, so we do a base bid for 1,500 tons, and then the additive alternate for 500. That gives us a little bit of leeway. If the price is high, we can just stick with the base bid amount, or if the price is good, we could do the whole thing, because we can budget for a certain amount, but we never know where the numbers are going to come in until the bids actually close. And in this case, the overall price with the base bid amount and the additive alternate came in at what we felt like was a reasonable figure, so we're recommending award.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for that explanation. Any other questions before we have the vote or discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Eric?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Brandy?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Okay, so that bid for the sand is approved. And next item on the agenda is visitors' views related to the agenda. Is there anybody in the audience that has views related to items on the agenda? Please step to the microphone, state your name and who you represent, please.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of the Assembly. I'm Brian Lynch, and I'm here representing myself and kind of by extension Rivers Without Borders. During the July 2nd Assembly meeting, I brought up that the Southeast Conference Board of Directors did not vote on a resolution on cleaning up the Tulsa Chief mine that was presented by Petersburg's board member, Cindy Lagodakis. I want to point out that, again, that the resolution was not anti-mining. I also want to point out that there have been 3 op-eds by Petersburg fishermen supporting the cleanup, specifically 2 in Pacific Fishing Magazine and 1 in the Alaska Dispatch News. So this specific issue is an issue for the Petersburg fleets. I asked the chair of the board why it had not been considered. I finally, after my second try, got a response from the executive director, Robert Venables. He said that they had reaffirmed a resolution passed in December 2014, supporting cleanup. However, they did not pass a new resolution, and the December 2014 resolution sunset in December 2015, so it is no longer in effect. I asked for further clarification on that and another confusing comment that he had made in response to me that seemed to somewhat support BC Canada over Petersburg's interests. I asked for clarification but have received no response. I'm really not going to go into more detail on that and discuss that. I can discuss that later with any of you at another time. But I'm kind of addressing item 15C here. I would hope that whomever is appointed to the Southeast Conference Board be very attentive to what the Southeast Conference Board is up to, and if they actually support the economic interests of Petersburg. I have worked with Canada through the Pacific Salmon Commission, the Halibut Commission, and the mining issues. And trust me when I say that Canada and BC interests do not necessarily mesh with our interests. I am also not requesting that Petersburg pull out of the Southeast Conference at this time, but the organization continues to go off on the rails as to Petersburg's best interests, then maybe the $2,400 annual dues we pay could be better utilized for other purposes beneficial to Petersburg residents. Anyway, any questions? Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. Lynch? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other visitors in the audience today with views related to items on the agenda? Please step to the podium, state your name, who you represent.
I'm John Haverick, 1204 South Nordic, representing myself. And I know you have this item on for discussion. I requested that you look at doing what several other places in the country and the world are doing, is banning plastic bags. They're not biodegradable. A lot of times they're one-time use, and a lot of times they don't even make it through one-time use. As you go through the store, you'll see people with 10, 12 of these alone. And, do you want your eggs in a cantaloupe in this, or a nice-looking bag like this that matches most of your eyes? And this can be used, they say, at least 125 times rather than once. And, there's responsible people that will use the plastic bags for multiple uses. They'll take out their garbage, pick up their dog poop, whatever. But the majority have so many of these, they get into the garbage and the landfill and then into the water. The NPR did a story 2 weeks ago saying that 50 to 100 of these are found for every foot of coastline in the world, not just in the U.S., but in the world. That's trillions of these bags poisoning our waters. And a lot of you that fish or depend on fishing or just like eating fish, these things are killing it. And we need to be responsible and step up and use something that can be reused again and also be better for carrying our groceries. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Haverick. Anybody else in the audience with views related to items on today's agenda, please step forward and state your name and who you represent.
My name is Sunny Rice. I'm presenting myself. I'm a member of the Petersburg Marine Mammal Center, and we'll be working with those folks and a few others this coming year. This is related to the plastic bag question as well. I just wanted to take the opportunity, as this is being now discussed at the public, to let you know about a grant that we received from the Petersburg Community Foundation. And so each month this year, starting in September and going through May, we're going to be doing awareness raising or other events, giving away some free things. We actually have some funds for free reusable bags and others to bring up this issue of marine debris, talk about what it means for our community, and talk about possible solutions. So I want to invite anybody who happens to be listening who's with a nonprofit or even an individual that might want to work with us on this, and I also will open up our activities to the city should you guys want to pursue this as well. We are planning a survey to find out what are the barriers to the reuse of bags or to people substituting single-use plastics for other plastics, probably starting in September. So if anyone in the city or you folks want to partner with us on that, we would be happy to do that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Sunny. Any other visitors in the audience with views related to items on today's agenda? Okay, now's the time to show the video, I guess. This is where we decided to show it. So Officer Kerr or whoever is going to push the button, I don't know how to do it.
You know what I'm saying?
I'll let you do it.
Okay. So the sound's only coming out of the laptop. I apologize, and hopefully it'll be good enough for everybody to hear.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just for the folks at home, what are we seeing here, Chief?
This is they have it titled as Alaska Law, and this is the reality show that they were looking to do here in Petersburg. It's Petersburg, Fairbanks, and Kodiak. The initial responses that they got from networks, this is just that pre-filming that you guys authorized, and the networks don't want it as a regular just police show. They can get that in Fairbanks or down south. They can get all the action for that. But what they're looking at is more of the life of Alaska, so the law enforcement in Alaska, and also what law enforcement does outside of that too. They're interested in, of course, working as a police officer, and then they asked if possibly we would invite them on some of our outings, the hunting, fishing, camping trip type stuff. They're really interested in the community, what happens in the community. So like, say, the Christmas tree lighting or something like that, they would love to be there to film that part of it, to see the community involvement and just what it's like to live in Alaska and be law enforcement.
Thank you.
A lot of times people move up to Alaska to just get away from their problems. And a lot of them are pretty serious criminals.
They just secured an arrest warrant for a homicide. He comes back on this property. In the books, he goes to jail. It's hard to keep telling the same people we'll get someone there when we can because we just don't have enough people.
Short staff is tough on us and stuff on the community.
Lucky day. I gotta go. I'm originally from Georgia.
Originally from San Diego. I'm originally from Kansas.
I moved from Oregon and basically started a brand new life.
Things are different in Alaska. Total culture shock.
You get exposed to stuff you don't think you would down south.
We get bear calls.
The winter here is a definite threat. We get 3 to 4 hours a day, like in the wintertime.
They thought me of shooting up in the middle of the air. Basically guarantee everybody's armed.
So from 1 minute you're working on a domestic violence call to the next minute you're going to a homicide.
Oh yeah, please. Almost like policing the Wild West up here.
Anything that happens in interior Alaska starts or ends basically in Fairbanks.
Our department now has 46 sworn positions available for downstate positions. This direction is very thin.
Basically guarantee everybody's armed. The amount of people we got, we have incredibly high crime rates. If you let that get into your head, you're not going to be able to do your job effectively.
Drugs and the guns, that's the big thing here. You've been advised you are trespassed from that property. No drug house. You definitely would never, ever go in that house alone because it doesn't take but half a second for something to turn on you before you know you're not coming back out.
A Fairbanks man has been charged with murder after allegedly shaking his 7-month-old child.
Kid cases like this is never easy. You've got a 10-month-old child that is dead.
22-year-old James and Jimmy's son was arraigned in district court today for second-degree murder.
In Alaska, we don't have to have a conceal and carry permit. People in Alaska, they love their guns.
What was the description of the male again?
White male, about 5'11", no shirt, no pants.
Had no pants on? Oh, yeah. He did have pants on? He's running. We're currently looking in the area that supposedly the gunshots were fired. There's a total of 5 of us on call tonight, and this call has pulled all of us in. Petersburg is a small island. We're a close-knit, small community. There's still a fair amount of area here that you can only access by boat. Good thing about being in a small department like this is that you get to do everything. The bad thing is that you have to do everything. We're our own detectives. We investigate the crimes here, all of us. We don't have a detective that comes in and does all the questioning for personnel. We do everything from start to finish. You catch the fish, you gotta clean it. Even though we're low-key and we're a small town, don't underestimate the call at the end of the day. Go ahead.
There's a overseas going on outside India.
Okay, well, just good bear luck on the blows. So last week we had, I think, 2 fights.
I was talking to a lady, she came up to me, fucking slapped me in the side of the face. I'm like,
really?
What the fuck is going on here?
This thing right there. We're a small, close-knit community here, and we have to live together amongst each other. What's your name, man? I don't know you. Orion. Orion? Yeah. His first name, last name? You might arrest him on Monday and see him at the convenience store the next day. Y'all let me know if you come back up front with you, all right?
Oh, no problem, dude.
All right, good. Got you, man.
Very well known for our mayors. A lot of people have the misconception that it's a small town, so you get small town crime, but it's actually the opposite. Thanks, 20, you know that he's there. That purple car that's over there. Do you want to stay maybe on the side in case he tries to run?
When you receive a call, you never know exactly what you're getting into. You don't know if they're wanted, what kind of weapons they have.
Police arrest 4 people in a major drug bust in Cognac.
Got a report of one vehicle rollover, unknown injuries at this time. Here's the deal, I'm just going to shoot you straight here. Based on what I'm looking at here with alcohol around the vehicle, I do get a little odor of alcohol coming from you while I'm talking to you. I just want to be able to show people that we're here for you and we care for you. We're not just some gun toter looking to get somebody in trouble or put somebody in jail.
Well, we got a report about a person was unresponsive.
You're just keeping, doing your best to do the citizens to get safe.
Headquarters 20, can you deny the address, please? Officer Shane Parker and I are the only 2 officers that cover this entire city from about 12 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Wallet with his IDs in his back pocket.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, whoever's else in the RV going, come on out. You always have to keep your guard up. Never know what you're going to encounter.
We call it the last frontier for a reason.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Okay, Member Mucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Chief, what's next with this project?
They're working on selling it to the networks, and then when it moves forward, or if it does move forward, then of course, I believe we still had to come to you guys for approval, because I think the initial thing was just for pretty much this to be filmed, and that was it.
And that's what I remember, the action we took as well. So I'll ask again if there's any visitors in the audience with views related to items on today's agenda. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, visitors' views unrelated to items on today's agenda. Is there anybody in the audience with a view related to something that's not on the agenda? Seeing no interest, there's nothing under board, commission, and committee reports. That's the next item on the agenda, so we'll move to the consent agenda. There are 2 items on the consent agenda. The first one is a renewal application of Southeast Moog Limited Marijuana Cultivation Facility, and also Keto's Cave Bar and Liquor Store transfer application. I'd entertain a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda. So moved.
Second.
Moved by Member Stan Gregor, seconded by Member Strand. Is there any discussion on this? Clerk, call the roll.
Jay?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Brandy?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we unanimously approve those 2 renewals, and the one renewal and the one transfer, I should say. And now we're on to report of other officers, and I believe we have a report from Chris Cotta on the recycling update.
Good afternoon, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, members of the Assembly. I'm Chris Cotta, Public Works Director for the Petersburg Borough, and I'm here to give everyone a status report on the borough's recycling program. As you may know, there has been some volatility in the recycling market starting last year. The major market for most of the recyclable commodities generated by Petersburg was China, and the Chinese have recently made sweeping government policy changes that have effectively closed their markets to most American recyclables at this point. This has affected recycling markets nationwide and caused many recycling vendors to begin taking measures to deal with the extra inventory of recyclables, since alternative markets have thus far been unable to absorb the previous volume accepted by the Chinese. What this has meant to us locally is that the value of most of our recyclables has dropped dramatically over the past several months. Petersburg's commingled recycling program gets much of its revenue from the value of the commingled recyclables collected weekly via the Blue Cart recycling program. The value of these commingled recyclables has dropped from a high of $136 per ton in March of 2017 to a low of $21 per ton in March of 2018. So quite a dramatic drop in value. Although these prices have started to recover, at present the commingled recyclable price is still only $27 per ton. Along with the drop in value, recyclers have started increasing processing fees for recyclable materials in order to stem some of their losses. Petersburg's recycling processing fees are going up over 50%, from a current $32.45 per ton to the new rate of $49.84 per ton. In combination with the drop in commodity values, this has resulted in a disposal cost per ton that is slightly higher than municipal solid waste. At present, we pay approximately $115 per ton to dispose of municipal solid waste, or MSW. With the drop in value and increase in fees, commingled recyclables are presently costing us around $126 per ton. Petersburg's MSW and recyclables together total approximately 2,400 tons annually, with roughly 300 tons of recyclables and 2,100 tons of MSW, or trash. If If we disposed of the 300 tons of recyclables as trash instead of recycling, it would cost us approximately $3,300 less on an annual basis, calculated using the present commingled value of $27 per ton and processing fees of $49.84 per ton. There are, of course, other program costs for the borough's recycling program. However, one major cost, the third collection truck, has recently dropped since we opted to extend the life of that collection truck beyond its anticipated replacement date. In the past, Petersburg's recycling program has, most of the time, not paid for itself. When Petersburg Indian Association, the PIA, was providing the service using grant money to fund their operations, the program was having a positive impact on the borough's bottom line since a grant was absorbing the program costs. Once PIA's grant funding ran out, the borough decided to continue the program, but realized that recycling would lose money without major program changes. This resulted in a gradual evolution of the program from PIA-provided services to a private contractor and ultimately to borough collection. A transition in collection methods also took place from blue bags to a cart system, again with the goal of eventually having a net positive effect on the borough's bottom line. Starting in 2016, with the full implementation of the Blue Cart program, the recycling program balance sheet was looking better and recyclables were costing much less per ton for disposal than MSW. It was anticipated that the program would start paying for itself and actually make some money in addition to the other benefits of recycling. However, with the recent unexpected collapse of commingled commodity values, this disposal cost picture has reversed and recyclables are now costing more per ton than MSW, as previously described. Whether this is a short-term outlook or a long-term outlook, no one is certain at this time. Our recycling vendor, Republic Services, has let us know that their expectations are for prices to continue to be depressed for possibly 3 to 5 years to allow the markets to reset. Whether this means a slow climb back to previous values, dramatic ups and downs, or further loss of value is unclear. We are hopeful that values have reached their low point and will slowly recover, but that remains to be seen. For the time being, we are trying to minimize our program costs until a future direction becomes clear. We have put off replacing one of our collection trucks that was scheduled for replacement this fiscal year. This will not only save the capital expense of a new truck, but will decrease monthly expense by reducing the replacement contributions for that truck to a level commensurate with inflationary costs only. Since we did not hire any additional staff to implement the commingled recycling program, we are still utilizing the same number of full-time personnel as we did prior to putting this program in place. And we will be looking at various other ways to minimize recycling program costs and increase program revenues as long as the program continues to be active. Hopefully, this memo has given the community a snapshot of what our recycling costs and challenges are at present. The big question, of course, is what does the future hold for this program? It really all depends on what the community wants to do. There are both pros and cons to continuing forward with recycling in some fashion, as well as to just eliminating the program entirely. That discussion is a broader one than what is covered in this memorandum. However, the Public Works Department is looking forward to getting some input from the Assembly and the community. It might be a little bit of work to sort this out, but we're ready to have the conversation and assist with providing the details needed in order to make an informed decision. And I'll be happy to take any questions you have at this time.
Any questions of Mr. Crowder from the Assembly?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's actually not really a question for you, Chris. It's more feedback for the community to, if you have an opinion on recycling, and I hope you do, please take time out to send us a letter and let us know your views and your opinion. So thanks.
Any other questions or review, Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So one of the options would be to stop the commingling program?
Yeah, at this point, what I was trying to do here is just really set the stage for a discussion on what happens with this program. Just to give everybody an idea, I quoted $27 a ton as the current commingled recycling value. The break-even point is about $37 a ton. And that's for transport and disposal only. That doesn't take into account, the other costs like O&M on the truck, for instance. But so it wouldn't have to come up a great deal to be at the break-even point as far as the transport and disposal portion. But, with the program losing money right now, really, the community really needs to decide, how committed are we to recycling? Do we want to possibly continue with something that's going to, be costing money long term? Does the community care about recycling that much that we're committed to that level, or would we rather, phase out the program or change the program to a different format? Like I think in the past, it's been, collection points. Where, PIA has offered services in the past. I don't know if that is potentially an option in the future, or if that grant program is over and not coming back. So there's a lot of different ways we could go, I guess, and we would like to have input from the Assembly and the community on what this community wants.
Any other questions, Member Mucci?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It would really be helpful to me to have somebody with the city prepare a bunch of options for us, whether it would be to change how the commingling program works. Maybe there's some losers in the commingling program that aren't working for us. I don't think you're going to be able to get any direction from us until we at least start to see some kind of numbers about what we can do to help save money in this program, the option about maybe just doing away with the whole thing and not recycling. I don't think that's, a lot of people want to do that. But I mean, those are going to be the options that are going to help me kind of wander down the path of trying to make an informed decision on what's best for the recycling program.
Yeah. Well, maybe what we could offer up there is, is there a way to modify the recycling collection program and make it profitable? The big factor there is the commingled, values, and generally the recycling commodities in general, not just commingles, but if you take the individual, commodities, the different types of plastics and so forth, a lot of those things have dropped in value also. And so even if you separate things out, a lot of the prices are still really low. There's certain things like cardboard, corrugated cardboard. The price on that hasn't really changed over time. It's gone up and down, but it's still relatively high and has stayed good. Aluminum is another one that, the price is still really good on aluminum. So that would be one option, is to say, okay, can we still do collections and reduce losses and try to make some money with the program as far as picking up like we do now, utilizing the blue carts. If we do away with that, then our recycling program could probably, actually be in the positive if we move away from collections. But we're not going to be recycling nearly as much material. Because when it's a voluntary, like you have to go somewhere to deposit things into a dumpster, we're going to get less participation that way. And so one other thing to consider, if we eliminate the recycling, curbside pickup and recycling, is that as a whole, it's going to, potentially benefit the budget to take away that program, depending on, again, what the commodity prices are at the given time. But what's going to happen to your individual customers is some of them are going to have increased costs because they're going to have to size their services up. Like, I'll give myself as an example. From a customer's perspective, I love the recycling program because I have, a 65-gallon can, and I can fit all of my trash in that can every week. And, I put a lot in the recycling container too, If the recycling program goes away, then, I probably got to size that can up, which is going to cost me more per month. So while it may be an advantage for the program overall to discontinue collections for individual customers, it may raise their costs. So that's one of the many things to consider.
Is there any way that, because I understand that if the voluntary disposal is probably going to, people just don't participate, but maybe like an incentive program where, where if you actually do recycle, maybe you get lower rates or something to get more community involvement?
Yeah, there's actually an incentive program in place, and that was, done with the lowest service level, which is the majority of customers. And, they get a lower collection rate per month than if you don't participate in the recycling program.
Right, I'm talking if we eliminated the blue cart service. Continue that, with... I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas of ways to continue to get people to recycle without, if the blue cart had to go away.
Well, there's definitely things that we could do to encourage recycling to continue. I don't think, like I said, I don't think we'd get the same level of participation or the same level of diversion, but if the price doesn't improve quite a bit, then recycling isn't really benefiting us financially. It's more of a thing of, are we doing it because it's a good thing to do and because people like to do it? Or are we doing it because it's an advantage to us financially? But when the curbside program was implemented, the commodity prices at the time were good, and so for a couple of years, the program was doing really well. One other thing we could do besides recycling, if you take a look at it's, I guess it's recycling in a way, but it's not putting stuff in a blue cart. But if you take things out of the waste stream before they get into a can, that benefits the program too. It reduces the department's cost to ship things out. Like I just heard people talking about plastic bags. If the major stores in town went to reusable bags, then those plastic bags aren't going to end up in the trash, and that's a good thing for the borough. Because we won't be shipping that out as waste, and we won't be paying for that poundage. We could encourage things like composting, because all the weight that you take out of the garbage is weight that we don't have to pay to ship south, and that's $115 a ton for everything that goes south. So there are other things we can do, besides recycling in the blue carts to save the program money, and I'll be looking at those things.
Member Nucci, you have another question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm not expecting to answer the recycling program this afternoon. I'm just hoping that we could sit down one night this fall and kind of go over the options of what we have and try and come up with some new ideas about making it, I don't know if it has to make a profit, but at least make it more so that it's breaking even. We're looking at the APEA contract negotiation, and one of the things in there is that if people expect services to continue the way they are, they have to pay for them. And if the co-mingling project is not working, and because of the costs are kind of going through the roof, and if composting could be a way to go, I think it's worthy of a evening's conversation about how we're going to make it better. That's all I wanted.
Member Castro, any more?
Yeah. You mentioned that cardboard and aluminum have kind of maintained the same price, while the cost of or the amount of the commingled recycling has gone down to $21 or $27 a ton. Would it be beneficial for individuals to separate that from their commingled recycling and then bring that individually up to a certain receptacle up at the dump? I realize it is more of a hassle because you have to then drive it to a facility instead of having people come pick it up. But would that be something that would would make the commingled recycling function, the whole program function better?
Yeah, it would be, that would be, I guess, hard for me to say right now. I'd have to run some numbers. What happens in that case is the value of your commingled recyclables is based on a sampling that they take every so often. And so, a portion of that commingled recycling stream is corrugated cardboard. And so that cardboard that's in the commingles contributes to the value of those commingles recycling. So if you take it out of there, you know what I mean, and then you have cardboard by itself, which is more valuable than commingled recyclables, you'd get the value for the cardboard that you bale, and but then you'd be, when they do a sampling and they see that there's no more cardboard, your value of your commingles would go down. Okay. So without crunching some numbers, I wouldn't be able to answer, whether would be an advantage for us or not.
I have a question for you, Chris. Right now, it's costing us a certain amount of money because the system isn't supporting itself. Who's paying for that? Is it just the borough right now? Is it a loss in this department, or is it going to fall on the ratepayers at some point?
Well, yeah, I mean, the ratepayers support the department. So right now, the ratepayers are paying more to dispose of recyclables than solid waste. We have had a series of rate increases, the last one of which was this summer. So we're going to be taking a look at rates in the near future. We were going to try and, leave them alone for a year or two just to give people a break from the constant rate increases. But it is something we're going to be studying. And if the program's continuing to lose money, we'll have to answer the question at some point. Does the community want to keep going with this commingled recycling program, or do we want to phase it out in favor of something else? But to answer your question, those costs are being paid by the sanitation department, and so ultimately by the ratepayers that support that department.
Absorbing it. So then, at some point, I feel it would be prudent for us to let them weigh in, and that's what this discussion is starting on, what they want to do. If they want to, just use the MSW, the Municipal Solid Waste Program, and save $11 a ton. I don't know how much that relates to an individual ratepayer, probably not much, but do they want to pay the extra dollar to put it through the recycle program, or do they want to just send it out the garbage and not spend as much money? Is that right? I'm assuming that's what's happening then? Or?
That would be one way to address the disparity in what we're seeing in the disposal costs, would be to implement some kind of a rate. Either, a lot of communities have a mandatory recycling fee. I don't know about voluntary. I haven't read as much about that. If there's, certain communities, I do know some communities have mandatory recycling rate charges. And, we looked at that when we implemented this program and decided that an incentive rate would be better than trying to charge people a fee. Now that the whole basis of the program has kind of been overturned by the drop in value of the material, it might be time to go back and revisit that idea and say, okay, if we continue with this in its present form, we need to be assessing some kind of charge for the recycling program.
Yeah, and from part of the conversation earlier, we extended the life of the truck that picks up the recyclables, but at some point, if we keep doing this, we're going to have to buy a new truck.
Yes.
That's just going to drive the cost up.
Correct.
More, in my mind. So anyway, we have to, a lot of things to think about. Any other questions of Mr. Cotta? Chris, you have something else to add?
Yeah, and I'd be happy to participate in, if the assembly wants to set up some kind of focus group, committee, have a couple work sessions, whatever. I'm happy to participate in that, bring the data that's required, and help work through some of this, some of these issues.
I think at some point the public's going to have to be tried to be made aware. I mean, you can't make all the entire public aware. Some people just don't participate, so. Anyway, thanks, Mr. Cotta. If there's no other questions.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. And just for anyone who's here that might want a copy of this report, I do have a few extra printed copies if anybody wants one. So.
Okay, thank you. It might be handy to circulate some of those through the public, or maybe it'll be in the pilot, I don't know. Next item under report of officers is municipal election report, and I believe that's by the clerk.
So I'm sure you've probably all heard on the radio and read in the newspaper about the municipal election coming up on Tuesday, October 2nd, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the activity room of the community center. This year's ballot will provide election of 20 positions, which consist of 2 assembly members, 2 3-year terms, 3 school board members, 2 3-year terms, 1 2-year term, 4 hospital board members, 2 3-year terms, 1 2-year term, and 1 1-year term, 3 planning commissioners, 2 3-year terms, 1 2-year term, 2 library board members, 2 3-year terms, 3 harbor board members, 2 3-year terms, and 1 2-year term, and 3 public safety board members, 1 3-year term, 1 2-year term, and 1 1-year term. We have one possible proposition on the ballot, which is whether to repeal the senior sales tax exemption and provide for an annual sales tax rebate to qualified seniors. The first day to file for candidacy was Tuesday, July 24th. Nominating petitions and declaration of candidacy forms can be obtained from the front desk of the finance office during normal business hours, or you can get them online at the borough's website. The last day to file for candidacy is August 21st by 5 p.m. The last day to qualify and register to vote at the municipal election is September 2nd. And anyone can obtain voter registration forms from us here at the borough offices. We will also send them in to the state for you. So I believe we also have them on our website available to be printed off. And I am still working on securing this year's election officials. I am trying to get a pool big enough so that we don't all have to work 13 hours, 13, 14 hours in a day. So far, I have confirmed Mary Leonard, Mara Lutomsky, Erica Warhatch, and Eric Castro, I believe. Yay. I believe my husband, Lauren Thompson's going to help as well. I really do need more help. If any of you have suggestions or are willing, please send people my way. I appreciate it. And that's it.
It's an hourly thing, right? You pay by the hour?
It is paid by the hour, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really?
Yes, I believe it's $14 an hour.
Oh, well, maybe that'll add some interest if it's not all voluntary. Any questions of the clerk? Are we getting interest in filling the 20 positions, or do many people?
Honestly, I've been off with my grandkids, but I heard on the radio this morning that I think we have 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Yeah, people have put in. Okay, good. So yeah, we are getting some interest, but we have a lot more.
We like to wait till the last minute.
That's true.
Okay, now it is.
Can't see our computers.
Oh, time for the mayor's report. It's fairly short. We're seeking letters of interest. The Petersburg Borough is seeking letters of interest from qualified borough residents to serve our community by filling one of 2 vacant seats on the Historic Preservation Commission, one for an assembly member representative with a term ending 12/31/2019, one for an archaeologist or at-large member with a term ending 12/31/2020, and letters of interest can be sent to the Borough Clerk at Box 329, Petersburg, Alaska, or via email at dthompson@petersburgak.gov, or just delivering them to the office at 12 South Nordic Drive. Congratulations to Mike Luhr. Mike Luhr was sworn in as the National President of the Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks on July 4th, 2018. He's going to be a very busy, Barb and Mike will be very busy for the next year. I believe they're renting a place in Seattle and coming here once in a while, but helping out of there to visit all the lodges around the country. Also, congratulations to John Jensen. John was recently nominated by Governor Walker and appointed to serve on the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council. And congratulations to their brother John, and he's also the chairman of the Board of Fish. And in a conversation with John this winter, he was going on a Kodiak trip. He had 4,000 pages of information to digest alone, so I don't, anyway, more power to him. Alaska Municipal League Summer Conference, I will be attending that, leaving on August 20th, so I won't be here for the meeting. August 20th, probably through September, if the meetings are still on Mondays. If the Assembly wanted to change them to a Thursday or a Friday for September, I could attend, but that is entirely up to the Assembly. I did get a phone call today from Senator Murkowski's office. She will be in town just for a short period of time on Friday and wanted me to pick her up at the airport, and then the Commandant, Coast Guard Commandant, is also coming to town, but it's just a very short visit, so there won't be any public receptions or anything like that. That was what I was informed. So they want to come and talk about the Coast Guard moorings, it sounds like. So that's very interesting that they're still proceeding down that avenue. And that's all I have for my report. Now it's time for the manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The kids in Petersburg completed 1,028 learning challenges and read over 125,000 minutes during the library's summer stream program. So tell them congratulations if you see any of them. The library is rolling out reusable blue bags at the front desk where you check out material. And when items are returned, the blue bag is also returned so they can use it again. We've had several camps this summer at Parks and Rec, including the art camp, the first full week in August. Cheer camp was August 1st through the 3rd, and the garden camp is upcoming from August 13th through the 17th. You can register with Parks and Rec for that camp. Lots of maintenance items at Parks and Rec. We had a leak fixed at the outlet park bathroom, the playground, ballpark playground structure. We got the bird netting installed and all of the playground cleaned. And the gym floor and racquetball courts have been resealed. We did receive some new pool chlorine dispensers, and we'll be getting those replaced this summer. The Upper Dam, the City Creek Spillway Rehabilitation Project is ongoing. All the concrete spillway repairs are complete, and the contractors began work on the dam gate operators and rock work adjacent to the dam. Mrs. Pat Weaver is recommencing her water and sewer main extension project within Bayview Estates in August. Rock and Road will be continuing the work, and the borough will have an inspector on site. The shorted primary wires at the Blind Slough Hydro were replaced and the unit put back online. The wires are thought to be original to the 1977 project and were dramatically degraded upon removal from the conduit. The department now has surplus wires and termination fittings in case we ever have an issue with this wire again. The Blind Slough Hydro Evaluation Project is still ongoing. Recent work includes resistance testing of the generator windings and testing of the generator staff and Pelton wheel. A report should be fully drafted in the next several weeks by McMillan, and then after the assessment report is final, the consultant will continue to evaluate various improvements to the facility and develop the final recommendations, including costs for any upgrades, replacements, or rehabilitation efforts for the assembly. Crystal Lake water levels continue to drop with the weather. Our FERC license requires that we generate at set minimums to provide adequate water to the hatchery, and we're in close contact with hatchery personnel to make sure that they have what they need. We clearly need a lot of water to get us out of trouble, but Carl was working carefully with Lauren to make sure we preserve what we can and make sure he's got water for the hydro. Carl continues to work with the University of Alaska Land Office to obtain a land use permit to clear trees on university land away from the power line out by the fur farm. It's been a struggle to work through insurance requirements, but we're hopeful that the work can be started shortly. The second Tyee maintenance shutdown of 2018 and corresponding diesel generation run at the power plant is tentatively scheduled for September 6th through the 9th. SAPO plans to inspect the Tyee Lake power tunnel with a submersible ROV and work on marker balls at Eagle River. The harbor staff continues to work with the Corps of Engineers on the South Harbor feasibility study. An RFP closed on July 27th for vessel assistance on researching possible disposal sites located for the Corps in our project. In-water disposal of the dredge spoils is preferred, but we've got almost a year of study that will go on as part of the Corps process before they can make that determination. So, summer maintenance in the harbor has been pretty busy, concentrating on South Harbor finger float repair and hinges and flotation. We had several different inspections at the assisted living facility. The assisted living licensing inspection was completed June 19th, and we received an A+, and the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation inspection came back as A+ as well. Property tax bills were mailed out July 1st. Please contact the Borough if you have not received yours. There are also some new ways to research property assessment information. A link has been provided on the Borough's website to provide property owners with information such as historical assessments and tax history. We're getting ready in finance to prepare for our audit. The formal audit occurs in September, and we have a pre-audit scheduled in August. The auditors will meet with any assembly members who may have questions regarding the Borough's finances. The marine passenger fee information and forms are being created and posted to the Borough's website, preparing for the January 1st, 2019 start date. Petersburg and Wrangell PDs and the Forest Service law enforcement attended an active shooter course hosted by Wrangell. The course was taught by Jeff Hall with Force Options. The first day was used to address an active shooter in a school setting, and the second day was live fire at the range practicing. We're hoping to use some of those skills and do similar types of exercises here in Petersburg. Officer Eric Wolf and Andrew Ayas, did I get that right, Chief? Ayas?
It's spelled wrong. It's Eris.
Eris, thank you. Both of Petersburg accepted conditional job offers to join Petersburg PD. Eric will start after he gives his notice to Wrangell and passes some background stuff. Andrew's possible start date will be in December after he gets out of the Coast Guard. The sergeant promotion process is complete, and Derek Thorson was selected as the new sergeant effective August 1st, so congratulations to Derek. Public Works crew has been working on the dust control measures due to the hot, dry weather. Most gravel streets have now been graded and had lichnosite applied. This is helping to keep the dust down. We're trying to keep an eye on that as we continue to have very dry conditions. The Household Hazardous Waste event was held June 9th through the 10th. It was a big success. Over 22 tons of hazardous material was collected from the community and shipped out for disposal. The wastewater pump station for the Baylor building has failed. Wastewater department has put in a temporary pumping system while the pump station is rebuilt. Baylor operations have not been affected. Thanks to search and rescue, we had a couple of call-outs related to boating. One incident, they were requested by the U.S. Coast Guard to assist an 18-foot boat that lost power and had no communication capabilities. SAR responded, located the disabled boat, picked up the passengers, and towed everybody back to the lodge. And just thanks to all the fire department volunteers who made the annual fire department picnic a success. It was on July 28th. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions of the Member Mucci?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple for the city manager. So the household hazardous waste program that just collected 22 tons, was that a free program for members of the community?
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, that's no additional cost, I guess. The cost of the program is supported by the sanitation department, but we don't charge additional for someone bringing in waste. So,
Mr. Mayor, and I understand that because we don't want to dump down the storm sewers on the ocean. But I mean, so this is another service that the community, that the borough is providing to the residents that the residents aren't paying for.
Well, the ratepayers ultimately are supporting this cost.
Okay.
But it's something that the borough has done for many years, and the community supports it.
Okay.
To the mayor, it's actually built into our rates.
Okay. Also, Mr. Mayor, we had a letter from Ocean Beauty last week about they're not going to operate this facility, or they're going to get rid of it or whatever.
That's our understanding. Basically, Ocean Beauty has said that they can do business easier for them in their other facilities, since this is primarily a canning location. And have notified us that they have no intention of reopening this facility.
So that means they can, Mr. Mayor, that means they could sell the whole facility if they wanted? Or?
I don't know yet. They sent the letter to Liz. I've actually never received a formal copy of it, and I don't believe any of the assembly has. Did you, Mayor?
I received one, I believe I forwarded it to the clerk.
Okay.
I'm not sure, so she can circulate it, yeah.
Got it. Okay. So I don't know any more details other than what's in that letter yet. Liz was going to try to reach out and find out if there's more details available, and we have not got that yet.
They have been removing equipment out of the building for a few years, and you know, the can lines and ice machine, and so it's been coming. Remember Mucci?
Yeah, and so on the tree removal out at the, is that done by borough employees, or is that, do we privately contract that with a?
We're going to contract that one out. We don't have the equipment to do full tree removal. Our guys do a great job with limbs and branches that might get near a power line, but this is a section of some really big trees, many of them leaning. We don't have the expertise, and we're not going to ask our folks to do that. It's dangerous. So we'll use an outside firm for that.
Yep. I have just two more things, Mr. Mayor.
Remember.
So is it possible to get this report that we got from Chris Cotta on the borough's website?
Yes.
So folks could kind of click on that and kind of make sure that would be, it's easy to do?
To go back to one of your earlier questions about providing options, that's one of the reasons we did it this way, is we need to start to get a feel from the community and the assembly on what types of options you're interested in. I mean, not specific, that's our job, but it's kill it, make it succeed no matter what. There's so many options, as you heard Chris start to talk about it. It's really hard for us to give you a comprehensive list until we hear more about what everybody's interested in. So, yes, we'll get it out there.
My last thing, Mr. Mayor. Can somebody walk me through how the electrical meters are read in town? What I'm getting at is there a way for the people that read the meters to tell if there is misuse going on by people in the community who are possibly living in a facility and not paying for electricity? How does that mechanism work?
I'll start this off, and then Carl can jump in here. Okay, when the electric department reads all the meters, including water meters for us, they make one trip through town. We also get reports out of the system that will show us unusual activity that we can ask to go back and check. Could be way high, could be zero, or it could be when they were out there reading the meter, they realized that somebody has bypassed the meter. So our meter readers actually look for things like that.
Yep.
And that's reported, and then we follow up on it if in fact it looks like somebody is trying to game the system, so to speak. Carl, you can jump in. I mean, at that point of it.
That's actually a pretty good rundown. The big advantage of having the meter reader on foot visit every meter is his eyes are open the whole time, and he's looking for signs of abuse, misuse, that kind of thing. And it has paid off over the years. A number of interesting situations have been uncovered and resolved through a line order the next day or that same day. So,
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Sure. Yeah, I have just one. Jeff asked a bunch of good ones that I had also, but one is for Carl. And what is the substance lignosite that you're spraying on the roads?
It's actually a byproduct of the wood pulp industry. The actual name is lignin sulfonate, and it's similar to a wood sap product that it just binds with the dust that's the free dust that's on the road and locks it down.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of the manager? Okay, moving along. That takes us to unfinished business. There are ordinances for third and final reading. There are two today. Item A, ordinance 2018-17. This is an ordinance amending Chapter 3.08 of the Municipal Code entitled Assembly and Mayor to clarify agenda formation language for our special meetings. I'd entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance in its third and final reading.
So move. Second.
Moved by Member Strand, seconded by Member Borough. Any discussion on ordinance 2018-17? Clerk, call the roll.
Jay?
Yes.
Brandy?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, passes 6-0. Next ordinance is ratification of the July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2020 collective bargaining agreement between the Petersburg Borough and the Petersburg Municipal Employees Association. I'd entertain a motion to approve this and ratification in its third and final reading.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Member Strand, seconded by Member Castro. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
I just need to recuse myself.
Yes.
No, I need to recuse myself.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
Good job, Brandy.
You have that, Clerk?
Yes, thank you.
But you've been doing a good job of doing that every time. Member Borough, for your people listening, is recusing herself from voting on this since her husband is an employee of the borough. So, any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Jeff?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, ratification passes unanimously. Okay, now we're on to new business. First item under new business is Resolution 2018-11. This is a resolution approving a sole source purchase of P25 compliant Motorola portable handheld radios to improve Petersburg's emergency communications system. I'd entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2018-11.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Motion been made by Member Strand, seconded by Member Castro. Any discussion? Member Castro.
I mean, I think it's great being able to use this grant money to be able to bring this new equipment into town. But I'm curious about what happens to the old radios that we have. It's going to be like a buyback sort of a program, or send them to a poorer municipality than ours? Or
I actually don't know.
Maybe through the manager. Maybe you could find that out. But I mean, it seems like since the new PD was put in, or maybe it was even before that, didn't we get a bunch of mobile radios and handheld radios? And
I think they were different. They were vehicle radios, if I remember right, because I thought the same thing and kind of looked.
Well, I'm kind of curious. It seems like we're spending money on new radios, and I'm not against our, public safety people and, fire department not having up-to-snuff radios, but just, and a lot of it is a grant money. I mean, in this particular issue, $28,569.94 of it will be paid from the borough's E911 surcharge fund, so. Sandy.
Mr. Mayor, Fire EMS Director Sandy Dixon. Excuse me, the first round was for mobile radios for the vehicles, and then we had, I believe, 10 radios, handheld radios that are P25 compliant, so they're interoperable radios, which is a federal mandate. So we're upgrading slowly using grant funding to meet the FCC requirement for interoperable radios. So that's why we're doing this.
Okay, answers my question. Thank you for the clarification. Just, I'm sure there's members of the public that will ask questions, so it's nice to be informed. Any other discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Nancy?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Brandy?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Okay, next item under new business is B, 18-258, Republic Services Contract Renewal. I'd entertain a motion to approve this contract renewal.
So move.
Second. A motion made by Member Strand, seconded by Member Stanton Gregor. Any discussion? So this is, Chris, as the Public Works Director, I have a question for him. This is with Republic, the people that actually collect our recyclables and our just mainstream garbage, right?
Yes, they transport and dispose of both.
Right, and then in here I'm reading it's proposed for the next 5 years, the rate will increase 3.5%?
Yes, that's correct.
And that's just for the basic garbage stream, that has nothing to do with the recyclables, that's a separate program then, in a sense?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
And
clarifying it in my mind.
Yeah, and the 3.5%, where we came up with that number was our previous 5-year contract. The increases were programmed in as part of a consumer price index, and the one we were using for the contract was all urban consumers in Seattle. It's just, the Department of Labor publishes dozens of these CPIs, and that one didn't work out too well for Republic Services. It worked out really well for the borough. I think it was less than a 1% increase, per year. And so Republic was proposing to use a more aggressive CPI called water, sewer, trash, and some of the historical rates for that one were in the 4 to 5%. And so the borough ended up just requesting a fixed rate be included in this contract instead of something variable like a consumer price index.
Okay. Any other questions? Member Mucci?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this 3.5% increase that's going to start in July 1st of next year, is that something that will likely be passed on to the ratepayers?
Well, it will be absorbed by the department, and that will be, when we look at rates again, we'll look at that as part of the whole picture. We don't have any rate increases planned at this time, and those proposed numbers for this waste contract kind of discount any advantage we might get from recycling, because right now we don't know if recycling is going to be a benefit or not. So, those are estimated numbers. They will be absorbed by the department through the rates, and we'll have to look at the whole picture in a year or two and decide if we need to do some more rate increases over time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, clerk, call the roll.
Jeff?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next item under new business is nomination to the Southeast Conference Board of Directors. Someone will have to come up with wording for a motion to either, there's 2 letters of interest, one from myself and one from Assemblymember Mucci. And what this does is it, just for an example, if the Assembly approves both names be put forward to Southeast Conference, then the general membership, which is one person from each community, would vote on this, and this will be at the September 11th meeting, I believe, in Ketchikan. So that's kind of in a nutshell how it works. So what does the Assembly want to do? I can't make a motion, so. Member Strand.
Oh, we have to make a motion first?
Well, if we're going to vote on it, to recommend to the Southeast Conference Board, or to the Southeast Conference, who Petersburg wants, or both names could be submitted, and then it's up to the people that vote. This vote today doesn't mean they're going to be on the Board of Directors. This just means your name goes on a ballot, and the general membership at Southeast Conference votes on it. And my clarification in the conversation through Robert Venables was that generally what's happened in the past, I'll use an example, Jan Hill, the mayor from Haines, wanted the position. She's the mayor, so she was endorsed by their assembly. In Ketchikan, their mayor wasn't interested, so there was an assembly member that was interested, and so that person was what's the word?
Nominated.
Nominated by the municipality. So we can nominate 2, we can nominate 1, but
we got to nominate somebody, if I'm hearing you right.
Well, you have to, and it's according to Robert Venables, it's been on the book records on the books for years and very seldom gets used, but since there's more than 2 people with interest, then he recommended, nominating whoever the assembly wants to nominate. 1, 2, either one of us, doesn't matter.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So.
But we'll need a motion for any nomination.
To do something.
Okay, I'll try. I would move to nominate member Ricci to Southeast Conference, whatever wording needs to happen there, Debbie.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by member Stan Gregor to nominate member Bucci and seconded by member Strand. So, with any discussion? Member Castro.
Sure. Well, I think it's great that, Mark, you have already kind of established beneficial connections with representatives from other municipalities. However, Jeff has entered into his role of the assembly with such a vigor that I can see you carrying that energy with you to the Southeast Conference Board. My opinion.
Okay, any other discussion? I'm going to chime in here. If I was to be able to make the motion, I would have nominated both people and let the board of directors or the general membership do it. But seeing that this assembly does not want the mayor to be their nomination for even to be put in this position, that's the wish of the assembly. I just wanted to make that statement. Any other discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Can I amend the motion? We can vote on that, so that both people are nominated? Or I guess we support both both members.
Do we have a second?
To the amendment. The amendment fails, seeing there's no second. Member Stan Gregor.
Kind of just in somewhat response to the amendment would have been, from my perspective, I don't think it makes sense to have a Southeast Conference picking the representative from our community. I think would make most sense for us to nominate our own candidate instead of having a larger conference choose our representative. I think it makes sense to do that locally. That's all.
Okay, call the roll, please. Clerk.
Yes, Nancy?
Yes.
Brandy?
No.
Mark?
No.
Jay?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Okay, that passes with a 4-2 vote with member Morrell and Mayor Jensen opposing. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll reconvene at roughly recognitions by assembly members or staff. Okay, seeing none.
Mr. Mayor.
Member Mucci.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, is the letter that we received from the medical center requesting help in some of their capital projects, is that an action item for us, or is that just...
Not if it's under discussion items.
But I mean, is that eventually, will it become part of a discussion that we're going to have with the hospital?
If someone puts it on the agenda, I would assume. Otherwise, no.
I don't want to speak for the hospital, but I think the first step was getting it in front of the assembly, and I think there was some discussion about potentially having a meeting with the hospital board and kind of talking through that whole issue as well. But Phil, and sitting over there, I don't know if you want to call on him to explain that or not.
If you would, Phil. I don't know if you've been to a meeting before.
Yeah, just the last one, just to introduce myself.
Okay, all right. I was gone, so nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. So, Bill Hofstadter, CEO of PMC, Petersburg Medical Center. I submitted a letter of request. There's 2 items I'd like to present. One is to set a date with the assembly and the board of PMC for a work session, And the idea is that PMC board would like to develop a strategic plan. Under that strategic plan, obviously, is the new facility building, and with that, we really would like to work with the borough on developing, improved relations and working together on that new facility, as well as some of the other priorities that come out of that meeting. So I'd like to ask for a date that we could work together or have a work session together. Tentatively speaking, our strategic plan session with the board is, I believe, September 7th, tentatively. So even if some of the borough would like to be in attendance there, that would be good just to listen in on the discussion. And the second item came up during a work session for our capital budget. We did have approximately almost $1 million in capital items this year. There were 3 items that were under infrastructure and facilities. I listed those 3 items. 2 of those, there was a recommendation or an ask to have the borough match those if possible. I understand you've already approved your budget for the year, but that was the ask to bring that forth.
Okay, thank you. So you're going to have your meeting in September?
Right, yeah, I believe September 7th is the set date for strategic planning, tentatively, and I would ask the Assembly and Mayor to come up with a date that we could work on a work session for the borough and board of directors.
Okay. In my mind, there's kind of 2 trains of thought for setting a meeting, one before the election or one after the election. Do you want the seated Assembly members that are, potentially going to be Assembly members again if they run? I understand Mr. Castor isn't, but that's unfortunate. So maybe we could plan something next month in the meeting, or does the Assembly want to try to set a date now? Member Mucci.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Many of us are going to be in and out of town over the next month or 2, but we could certainly ask the city clerk to send us a note to see what dates we might be available.
I would, maybe after moose season. How about that?
Well, yeah, Mr. Mayor.
15th.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. I was thinking all the way into October.
Right,
yeah.
That makes more sense to me personally. Member Sven Gregor?
Yeah, I'd like to echo your comment, Mr. Mayor. I think October, from my perspective, would be wiser. I sat in on a board meeting last, September, and the Assembly turned over quite a bit a week and a half later, so it might be in the hospital's best interest to have a full-seated Assembly, at least for the next, 12 months.
Okay.
Just food for thought, I guess.
Yeah.
Member Mucci?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And then, just a question to Phil. So, under this agenda item, it says the hospital board strategic planning and a new hospital facility. So, is that the direction that the hospital board is headed at this point for a new facility? Have they made that decision?
No, I think that's something that needs to be firmed up at the strategic planning section. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Phil, for your... You jumped ahead a little bit on the discussion items there. That was actually item C, but we're back. Is there any recognitions by staff or Assembly? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to item B on the agenda, which is Member Mucci added this discussion to the agenda as a request of local resident, at the request of local resident John Havlick, attached to the sample ordinance prohibiting the distribution of disposable plastic shopping bags. So, Member Mucci, would you like to start this discussion?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this point, that's all I want it to be. I want it to be a discussion. I'm not really in favor at this point of doing a fine and preventing people from using the green grocery bags. I would hope that we could do it in a, like Sonny Rice was talking about, there are folks who are doing fundraising opportunities, reusable bags. I don't think it's up to the city to mandate that we can't use plastic bags. I think we all use those little green plastic bags for different things around our house. We had a very thoughtful letter written by Donna Marsh over the weekend to us, and it brought up some really good points. I was just interested in just kind of getting this discussion out there. I mean, if you listen to the news enough, you hear about different communities in Alaska, different places down south that are trying to do away with the plastic bags, and I was just hoping to get the conversation started, have it out there more publicly, and if there are people who want to help out with reusable bags and fundraising opportunities and the programs that Sonny and Joni Johnson have got going on, I think that'd be a good way to start. I mean, if you start using your reusable bag by going to the grocery store every time you go, eventually the grocery stores are going to say, well, I don't really need to order that many green plastic bags because nobody's using them. But it's just, the hardest part for me and my wife with the reusable bags is making sure I remember to put them back in the car after I've gotten groceries. And I always carry one or two in my truck, but it's just, that's the hardest part is once you get groceries, getting back in your car. But I just wanted to get the discussion going. I'm not really in favor of putting an ordinance on the table at the next meeting, but I just wanted to get it out there for the Assembly's discussion.
Any Member Stanton Gregor?
Yeah, thank you for that input. Member Michi agreed in a lot of areas there. Because of course we use them everywhere. I thought Donna Marsh wrote a letter to the Assembly, very thoughtful with a lot of great points what we use green bags for. In my office right now, there's one in this garbage can liner because it's convenient. They're based on convenience. And I see the other side of it, with Member Heberlich brought up as well. Like, we live on the ocean. It poisons our ocean. So I cannot discount that either because it's also very real. And what Member Michi was saying as far as what happens if I forget my reusable bags, in Helena, Montana, there's this place called the Real Food Store. I like to go there for blueberries. Not that you need to know that, but I love going there. And when they get there, they have no bags, paper or plastic. They have this big, all their cardboard is in this big heap in front of the store. And you put it in, you carry it out. Different getting used to it? Yep. Easy to adapt to? Yeah, on a pretty short timeline. I would really like to get some emails and some phone calls or just people stop me on the streets and give me their 2 cents on that. My opinion is just one of the several thousand people that live here, so I want to really encourage people to stop us and let us know your opinion on this one. Thanks.
Any other Member Castro?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, making the transition from plastic to reusable bags or paper bags can be a challenge sometimes. My local town back in California, they outlawed plastic, and then now they just have paper bags at the store, which works well in California with 30% humidity, but when your car's saturated and you pull your bag out and it rips the bottom out, it wouldn't work as well in this environment. On the flip side, I was just listening to a report that said by 2050, there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than fish. So that's something that if we have an opportunity to be able to play our small part in the world global scale, I know it sounds like something that is worth investigating.
Any other input? Okay, we'll move on to the last discussion item, future union negotiations. I believe this was requested by Member Michi as well. Member Michi, do you want to start off the discussion?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We just voted earlier to ratify the latest union negotiations that just got through. And, one of the things that John Hogue, who volunteered his time to help us get to the end line here, there was a sentence in here that really caught my attention, and I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of this, and I'm hoping that, I don't know if it has to happen today or whatever, but at least we give direction to the city manager to have us come up with some ideas about how to accomplish this goal. And I'll read the 2 sentences if I can. In the third paragraph down, it says, combined with projected federal cuts, will make business as usual for the borough either very difficult or impossible. Service reductions and layoffs will have to be considered in the very near future. And for me, since we have another year left on the contract, this fall and winter would be a good time to have this discussion about where we're going to go, because we're going to be back in union negotiations before we know it. And this 500-pound elephant is still going to be in the room and we haven't addressed it. And I think it needs to get looked at. I think I'd like to have some options. If it means laying people off, I'd like to know that. If it means reducing services, I'd like to know that, because that'll help me make a better decision when we get ready to negotiate and at least come up with our strategy of how we're going to negotiate the next round of the contract. So I just have that there. Nothing that needs to happen now, but it's just something I've been thinking about over the last, since we finished ratifying the contractor. So yeah.
Any other discussion? I believe the contract we just approved is good till 2020?
Yes, June 30th, 2020. So we will begin negotiating early 2020.
Right.
So we have a little over a year.
Year and a half out, so. Any other discussion on this topic? Okay, that brings us to an executive session. We need to entertain a motion to go into executive session. I think this, what's written here, would be adequate.
So somebody, So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn into the executive session to receive an update and recommendations from the borough's attorney regarding litigation filed by the estate of Molly Parks.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.